Well, welcome. It's wonderful to see such a great crowd here on a beautiful April morning. We really appreciate it. I'm Paul Fanlon, publisher of the Cap Times, and I'd like to welcome today's guest, Greg Marcus, who's the longtime president and CEO of the Marcus Corporation in Milwaukee. Many of you probably think movie theaters when you hear the name Marcus, but over the next hour you're going to hear that it's about a lot more than that. Our moderator this morning, per usual, is Mark Richardson, and you can learn more about both of these gentlemen in the handout at your table, so I won't slow down the proceedings by going into greater depth there. For those of you who are newcomers to this event, we launched it last fall as a spin-off of our Cap Times Idea Fest, our big annual festival that occurs on campus in September. This year, the dates will be September 18th to 23rd. That event focuses on politics, public affairs, racial justice, social justice, and a lot of other issues. And we'd love you to be aware of it and put it on your calendar as well. We decided that this business event kind of didn't fit, that we were going to pull it out of Idea Fest and do it as a quarterly breakfast, and it's worked out really well. Like I said, this is our third one, and we're really pleased with that. I want to say just one thing about Idea Fest. Last year we had phenomenal speakers. We had Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein and Jamie Raskin from the January 6th committee. We're going to have phenomenal speakers again this fall. I can't go into much detail at this point. One session I do know about we're going to do is a panel discussion on the past, present, and future of free speech and free expression at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I'll be moderating that panel, and it'll include the Chancellor, Jennifer Mnuchin, and a couple other distinguished participants. So that's my Idea Fest pitch. I want to bring up Andy Burrish, who really helped come up with this notion for this breakfast. And Andy and the Burrish Group are the presenting sponsors of this event. So Andy, come on up and say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to pitch sponsorship of this program. So I said to Paul tonight, I said, so when we were the lead sponsor for Idea Fest for 3 or 4 years, and I said, I'm kind of burnt out on politics now. And so I said, why don't we have some more about business? And in Milwaukee, they have this Power Breakfast series just like this. And I said, that'd be interesting to bring, top CEOs from around the state talking about problems, challenges that they've had in their businesses. And I said, that'd be something different for Madison, because usually we are centered on politics, and he just mentioned that. So we decided we'd be the lead sponsor in getting this thing started. And then I was talking to Brett Newcomb today, and I said, we're looking for like a dozen sponsors. And he said, hey, I'll sponsor. So just if we want to keep getting great speakers like this to come and talk about how they run their businesses and challenges, this is a great opportunity for you to be one of the sponsors. We could have a dozen sponsors. You get to put things at the table. We acknowledge you. You get to make a little presentation and pitch your company if you'd like. But there's room for sponsorship, and this is really successful. I think we have about 150 people right now. Now, I know in Milwaukee they've had this for 25 years, and Milwaukee's statistical metropolitan area is 1.5 million people, right? Our statistical metropolitan area is 500,000 people. They get about 400 people at their breakfast. We're already at 150 on the third one, and we're a third their size. So it's been a success. So I just wanted to pitch to everybody, if you'd like to use this for bringing your customers, your clients, your coworkers, whatever, it's a great venue. So that's all I want to say. Talk to Ross or Paul and become a sponsor and bring your friends and customers to this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Andy. He volunteered to do that, but I really appreciate it. 2 housekeeping things, and I'll get out of here. One, we would love, so the concept here, again, as Andy said, we love the Dane County business leaders. but they are out in the public more and talking more in this market. The concept here is that we really connect Madison to the state and get out and get major CEOs from across the state. And to that end, if you have ideas, names, connections, I would be very interested, or any of the team would be very interested in hearing your ideas for future speakers. Last piece is that on the way in, you should have received, if you parked in the ramp out here, a voucher to get out of the for free parking. If you did not get one, we'll be distributing them on the way after the breakfast. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark and thank Greg so much once again for being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And thanks, Andy, for your sponsorship. So good morning, everybody. Yeah, you're getting to it. Yep, it's going to be one of those. Last time we were here, we were worried about the snow, right? And now it's like summer. I don't know when that happened. And I want to thank Greg Marcus for coming over and spending his morning with us. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. I'm a huge movie guy, and so to have the movie guy is kind of cool. So first of all, some people might feel like they kind of know you already because of the trailers you do before the movies. I've never hung out with a rock star before, but I've kind of got the feeling just this morning, people like coming up, hey, let's grab a picture. I'm like, that's awesome. So tell me, when did you start doing those trailers? Whose idea was it? Who came up with that?
Well, good morning, Mark, and good morning, everybody. Those trailers started in 2012, and it started because it's interesting, and I'll start at sort of where we are and then go back. It's fun. I mean, I like it's great to connect with people and to know that something I'm doing is, making that connection. But I have to be honest, I never had thought about it, doing something like that. And it was, but it came from a really good place. So here's where, that's why I wanted to start with that. Because what happened was, in 2012, I was one of the community co-chairs on Milwaukee's United Way campaign. And that's the citywide campaign, good-sized campaign. There were 3 of us that did it, and so we'd go into every week we'd go to the United Way offices to get the update on what was going on and talk about strategies, and maybe you'll find out if you sit here with me for a while. I like to joke around and have a good time. I try not to take things too seriously. I mean, I can be intense. Just ask some people in the meeting with me yesterday. But it's not going to start, this is not going to be a fun meeting. But, they sort of, I'd call it the Greg Show. They were getting the Greg Show once a week. And the head of marketing for United Way said, you give us a PSA, public service announcement every year for United Way on your screens. Would you actually film an appeal and do it yourself and go on the screen? And I thought, well, okay. I said, let me think about it for a minute. And I came back to him, and one thing I'd always thought about, I'd like to say I'm not delusional. I hope no one disagrees with me.
We'll be the judge of that.
Exactly. I'm not nobody's coming to the movies for me. I mean, they're not. They're coming to the movies for Super Mario this weekend. They're coming to the movies for Spider-Man or for Air or for whatever the movie that's playing. That's why people are coming to our theaters. Now, we have to do a good job. And we have to motivate people to get off their couch, and I'm certain we're going to talk about that later on. But that's why. But it was, if we could. People don't think about the building a lot. Now, here in Wisconsin, it's a little different because they know who we are. Yeah. But when you start getting out state, you start moving throughout the country, they don't, Marcus Theaters, what is it? Doesn't really mean anything. It's a building, it's a name, it's a developer. And so I said, you know what, I'd do it. This is to the head of marketing. I said, I would do it, but I want to be able to welcome people and I want to have a little fun with it. If I can do that,
then I'm in.
Then I'm in. And so we did it, and it went for 3 months. And in the first 3 months, it was good for United Way. My parents' friends would come up to me and say, "Oh, Greg, you look so good on the screen." My parents' friends, even at that point, were not exactly young and maybe couldn't see very well. And I said, "Okay, good. That's a good, okay." And then we did it like the next year. I started noticing that I was getting noticed a little more often. And what I really noticed was, it was interesting. I was in a city, and this is the point about being known outside. And we hosted a breakfast for some of the local council people. And I noticed that they were talking to me and coming up to me and like they knew me. And I started thinking to myself, wow, you people think you know me. You don't know, but this is good. You don't think you know me, because normally in a city, this was numerous states away. If I walked in, they would know me from Adam. And I thought, that's a good thing to have that local presence, even when you're not necessarily local, and to feel. And we like to give back to the communities that we do business in. We would like that local feel. So I thought, you know what, this is probably a pretty good thing. I had a few other instances sort of like that pop up, and I said, I said to our team, let's go on all the time with this. I'm probably not hurting the business.
Yeah. We're on to something here, right?
Oh, at least it's a neutral and it'll be good politically.
Well, no, and that's, you don't see that from a CEO often, right? So the guy who's in charge, showing up, having a little fun, letting your hair down a little bit, being a little bit
What's
more.
left of it, yeah.
As soon as it was starting to come out of my mouth, I thought that might go somewhere. I thought, yeah, I'm in trouble there. It's not often you see it, and I just thought it was super cool. So, I mean, obviously, that was not your first gig for the company, right? Like you said, it's a family business. Take us back to the beginning. Take us back to who formed it, when did it start?
Sure. The company started. I'm third generation, actually,
Okay.
as they say. I came to the attention of senior management at a young age. That's my dad's line, actually, because it's true for him too. But the company was started by my grandfather, Ben Marcus, sort of a mythological figure, in 1935, so 87 years ago, in Ripon, Wisconsin, with one theater, the Campus Theater, which is still there to this day. I can't tell you where theaters 2 through 10 are, or 20, I don't even know, but that theater, because we believe in the importance of history, and as that while we believe in the one hand that the only constant is change, history is also prologue, and it's important to remember where you came from, and so we kept the shrine, and so the Campus Theater is still on Main Street, or on Watson, I think it was, in Ripon, and that was where the company started. It was really, but interestingly, shortly after my grandfather started the business, and he was an immigrant from Poland. He had come over with nothing. He's your classic. He won the Horatio Alger Award many years ago. We went to Dallas when I was much younger, and he was recognized for rags to riches. He really was that story. He was a brilliant guy, and so he started building these movie theaters, and then TV came along. And it was like, ooh, that's not so cool. But two things came out of it, and he was young. I mean, he built his first theater. He was 24 years old. He was a kid. So he said, well, one is I probably shouldn't have all my eggs in one basket. I shouldn't just be in the movie theater business. The other is, I'm going to be able to get about the theater business isn't going to go away. And by the way, there's some interesting parallels for what's going on in today's times. But the theater business isn't going to go away. I should go acquire, other theaters that will be cheap, and they're going to have landlords who are going to need to know what to do with these buildings, and we can partner up, and that's what he did. And so he was acquiring other theaters then, but he got in the restaurant business. And he got into, if you remember, Mark's Big Boys. Those old enough to remember that. And in the category of the only constant is change, as the business grew, that at one point became the biggest part of our business. Big Boys and KFCs and Captain Steak Joints and Applebee's. We had all these restaurants. And so then my dad comes along. My grandfather, so what happens is my grandmother was born in Minneapolis. So you can only imagine how excited she was when my grandfather said, hey, good news. Oh, you're pregnant. That's great. We're going to have a kid, and we're moving to Ripon, Wisconsin, because that's where and she's like, oh, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm sure. I can't imagine that discussion. But they moved to Ripon, and the business grew. My dad grew up in Oshkosh, and then when my aunt and my father had graduated high school, my aunt was like a senior, they moved down to Milwaukee because my grandma was like, we are moving to a bigger city. So they moved to Milwaukee. My grandfather's hanging out. He's got a bunch of friends, and they've got our theater business and the restaurant business. but he also was buying real estate, and he had bought a motel in Appleton. It was called the Guest House Inn, College and 41, if you know the intersection. We still own a lot. We actually don't own much of it. We've sold off most of it over time. We still have the Hollywood Theater, but we own that. We owned that whole quadrant on that. That would be the northeast quadrant. This theater, this hotel, I would describe it as a Soprano. Like a Soprano-style hotel. It's a motor lodge. You back the car up, you throw the body in the trunk, and you drive away. But the guys he's hanging out with just think he has this hotel in Wisconsin. The Pfister is starting to have problems, apparently. They said one guy's selling the meat to the Pfister, the other guy's the cleaner, and they said, Ben, something's not right at the Pfister. You're in the hotel business, not knowing what that meant. You're in the hotel business. You should buy the Pfister. He's like, okay. He was a classic entrepreneur, and he's like, yeah, I'll buy the Pfister. So he actually bought the mortgage and ended up owning the Pfister. That's right when my dad came in the business.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know all the things you guys are into, right? So you talked about the Pfister. You own properties here in Madison. The Hilton, correct?
We own the Hilton.
Was just hanging out at the Audrey, the bar area.
Turned out really cool. I was really
that rework was really cool. There was a nonprofit over at the Monona Terrace. Walked over the Skyway, hung out there for the rest of the night. It was a good time. You go from one theater in Ripon, Wisconsin, to 2019 revenues of close to $830 million, did I see?
That's probably about the right number.
And
it was so long ago that part of my memory is gone.
I was going to say,
I also try not to remember what its peak was at that point.
That was pre-COVID, right? Aside from the theater business and the restaurant business, the hotel business. What's the St. Kate? You've got the St. Talk a little bit about the St. Kate. That's super cool.
The St. Kate is our arts-focused hotel. Thank you. We're really proud of that one. It's in Milwaukee. It was the old Intercontinental. And, we own 3 hotels in downtown Milwaukee. We own the Monona Terrace, obviously. We own the 3 hotels in Milwaukee, the Hilton and the Pfister and the St. Kate. And this was the Intercontinental. This is a fun story about that. So, the Intercontinental, this is how dumb we can be. Me, when I say we, I mean me. When we did the Intercontinental, I'm like, oh, I love that brand, that name, and I sort of knew it as sort of some of its more really high-end iterations around the world. It's owned by Intercontinental Hotels, which actually also owns Holiday Inns and Holiday Inn Express. But when we did it, it just didn't work. It was not driving. That brand is not that strong a brand. Has a nice name, but it really doesn't go beyond that. And we were coming to the end of the license, and we were trying to figure out what to do with it. And one of the ideas was, one of the things that we do. My grandfather Ben had a saying: "The only original are Adams and Eve. The only originals are Adam and Eve. Everything else is a copy." And so he was basically saying, look, go watch what everybody else is doing and think
do
about
it better.
do it better, or at least try. And so we were out looking around at what was, we're paying attention to what's going on in the hotel industry. It wouldn't come as a surprise to anyone in this room. Experiential travel is really a big thing, and it's been going on over the last 10 years. People don't just want to go, certainly, I'm not going to tell you people don't want to go to Hilton's. We have them. We have Marriott's. People do want those hotels, but they also are looking, if they can, and a certain group of travelers in one of the segments is looking to learn something, for it to be different, to be something they can experience. One of the things that was going on was this idea of an art-focused hotel. The granddaddy is a group called 21C out of Kentucky. They started, and we were out looking around, and so I said to my dad, I said, we should think about maybe making this an arts hotel. Now, that was venue shopping, because my dad really is good about understanding this intersection of commerce and arts, and that these two things can intersect. And I can show you some examples over time. So, again, I hate to reveal age for people, but if you remember, in Milwaukee, at the Mecca, which was the convention center before the Wisconsin Center, where the Bucks played, the Mecca had a basketball floor, which was very colorful. It was designed by an artist named Robert Indiana, the guy who did the love sculpture, L with a cocteau over the V and the E. And the reason that existed was my dad was the head of the marketing committee for the convention center. We own the hotels. You end up working with the convention center. He was the head of the marketing committee. And he said, you know, I have an idea. If we could have an artist come in and paint the basketball floor, it'd be like one of the world's largest pieces of art. And every time that the Bucks are on national TV, people will see this floor and they will talk about it. This is about driving people to come to Milwaukee. It's about business, but yet it's about art, and it's about good art and hiring a really, not just hiring somebody who did a cool design, hiring a very substantial artist. And so they brought in Robert Indiana, and they did this. And my dad, actually, to this day, he's on a 30 for 30 for ESPN, which is pretty cool, I have to ask me.
Cool.
Yeah. And then he did this thing called Sculpture Milwaukee. If you're familiar with Sculpture Milwaukee, he said, you know, how can I get people, which to a lot of people say, oh, Steve, you did this great sculpture garden in downtown Milwaukee. And yeah, he did, and that's really a piece of it, and brought in world-class sculpture. But what his idea was, the genesis was, how can I get people to walk down Wisconsin Avenue and patronize the businesses in Milwaukee? You know, if I turned it into a sculpture garden, people would walk down the avenue. That's good for business. That's good for this. So this idea of going to him and saying, hey, I've seen this, what do you think? I knew that he would like the idea. And at one point, actually, this is the funniest. If you've seen the St. Kate or been in it, there's a beautiful Deborah Butterfield sculpture. She does these horses, and it's our showpiece in this hotel. So I walk into my dad's office one day. We're still trying to even figure out if we think this makes economic sense because we hadn't done it yet. And my dad says, you know, because he's into art. He said, you know, there's this great Deborah Butterfield on auction we can get for the art hotel. And I said, Dad, we haven't even decided we're doing an art hotel yet. He said,
Well, you better now.
well, he said, you know, it's not going to lose its value. Let's buy it. We hadn't had a pandemic yet. We had a little more liberal. I'm like, hey, you're the chairman. Do whatever you want. Buy a horse. So he bought the Deborah Butterfield, or we as a company bought the Deborah Butterfield. It was actually in the first iteration of Sculpture Milwaukee, and now it's the prize piece in St. Kate. He knows what he's doing.
And then you built the joint around it.
And then we built the joint. Exactly.
Nice. So, as a former tourism official for the state, I just want to thank you for creating such experiences, right? That travelers and visitors want to go to and see and come spend money, right? And then go back to wherever it is they started out.
Yeah. Well, you know, you all think we're in the hotel business and the movie theater business and restaurants. We still have restaurants. We have other businesses. But what the truth is, we're in the memory business.
There you go.
We would just sell memories. Someone might take the towel occasionally, but they really shouldn't take anything from the hotel with them. So a pillow occasionally, I suspect, disappears. But the truth is, what we really do sell is that memory. Whether it's the memory of being in an event like this and walking out, and hopefully it's a good memory when you walk out, or the memory of seeing an art hotel, or being at the Pfister, or whatever it is. That's our business, and so we believe in trying to create that strong memory.
Yeah.
You know, that memory of going to the movies with your. How many people took kids to the movies this weekend? You know.
Is that a real question? Because they'll answer.
Yeah, I'm sure. Raise your hand. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I'm telling you right now. None of your kids one day will say, "Oh, I remember when I watched Super Mario on the couch with my parents." That's not going to be a discussion that's probably going to happen. But they'll say, you know what, I remember when you took me to the movies and we got popcorn and it's because you did something active.
Yeah.
You created that memory.
I remember my first drive-in theater. You know, back in the day, talk about dating. This is the third of the room just went, what? What's that? You know, because those things stay with you, right? They stay with you. And, you know, so much of you guys' ventures are experiential, and they count on visitors, travelers, behavior, certain consumer behavior. And then comes COVID.
Well, I could see where you were going with this.
You see where I was teeing this up, right? I was like, run really fast into this wall. That I can't even imagine what beginning of 2020 must have been like for the company. Take us back to, March 2020 when you were starting to realize what was headed our way. And how did you work through it? And how'd you put a face on? How'd you put a game face on every day?
It's funny. Someone came up and said, I liked how positive you were doing all that. And I was like, oh man, if only you knew what was going through my mind. It was, and yet I'm trying to actually to black out every one of those memories.
Yeah, and I just dragged it all back to you. But part of it, first you don't even know.
you don't know what's coming. You know, it's like I remember when they canceled the NBA season. That was sort of this is really,
Yeah, this is real.
this is bad. But then you don't know. It's going to be a month or two, and then we'll be back. But still, we'd never closed we'd never closed any of our theaters. Our hotels don't close. They're open 24/7. We'd never closed any of our movie theaters. So the idea that we were going to close them all, that was mind-boggling. And then we started closing hotels. It's different, hotels, we had people were still traveling a little bit. I mean, so we held off as long as we could to close, we did not want to close the Pfister. If we didn't have to, we weren't going to close that hotel. And yet even at some point we said, we just can't stay open. There's just nobody here, and having people come into work we didn't feel comfortable. And so, but then now you start getting into the summer and you're like, man, we just can't even get open. And then they start talking about, well, we're going to go to streaming and with the theaters. And I would tell you that I used to tell people, I never knew it would come this true, I never go to bed wondering whether there's going to be a hotel business. But I even said before, I sometimes wonder, will there be a theater business? Now I was being a little hyperbolic pre-COVID, but then I really started to wonder. And yet, at my core, I knew, and I said this as I got interviewed, because I used to describe myself, because there were no shortage of these groups that were still having their things virtually that would have me, now Greg, we'd love to talk to you. What's going on? And hear what's going on. Because I was like, must be the poster child of Schadenfreude. Let's get Greg on, because if we think we got problems, let's have him on, because he must be miserable. But I used to tell people, look, we're humans. Humans want to be together. They want, there's some odd stuff I still think going on. This idea of working from home and working remotely, I think is nuts for a lot of reasons. But because I know humans, the minute they could travel, boom, our hotels actually are back to where they were they're ahead of 19.
That's great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. And the theaters are on their way back. They're not there yet, but they're because we want to experience things with one another. It's better than watching someone be a little square tile on a screen.
Yeah. Don't tell the 20-somethings that.
It's so true. They don't. I have some.
So there's another generation coming up to.
Yeah, not in the business yet, but interestingly, even they're different. Like my son, he's 24. He likes going out, and he goes. My daughter. I mean, they all trust me, they like to go out. But in terms of going to the office, my oldest, she works in Chicago, and she actually prefers to work at home. But I don't think she understands what she's missing necessarily. And it's different. Commutes in Milwaukee. Now, actually, my son works in New York, so he's got a long commute. But commutes around here are not like commutes in Chicago. Right. But it does. The thing that I'll tell you an interesting story about that. So my daughter's boyfriend, he works for a hedge fund in Chicago. And I was talking to him. I said, how often do you go in? He said, well, we were going in 3 days a week, but now we're down to 2 days. I said, what was that? He said, well, my boss lives out in the suburbs, and he doesn't like commuting, and so now he only comes in 2 days a week. And so that's what I come in.
Yeah.
I said, if your boss came in 5 days a week, how often would you come in? He said, 5 days a week.
Right.
And so it goes to this idea of tone at the top. And I can only point to our company as an example of the opposite. We started coming back pretty early, and this when we felt, and we didn't pressure anyone to come back. We said, look, if you don't feel safe, if you're uncomfortable, don't come back. You can work remotely, but if you feel comfortable, we'd like to have you back. And by the way, we are asking all of our people to come back. They're working in our hotels and our theaters, so just think about that a little bit. But we never pressured anybody, but we were there. And most of our people came back early. Our people are mostly in the office 5 days a week. There's some who aren't, and that's okay. But we're back. Now, I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox here for a minute. Can I do that for a second?
Your
because
stage.
I'm sure there's some people who say, well, Greg, you just want people to come back because it's good for your company. Because I believe it is. That's true. Because I do believe you can't plan spontaneity for Wednesday. And there's something about walking around and connecting with people and talking to them and having a sidebar conversation after a meeting that you can't have on Zoom. Technology is great, and I believe that technology should be enabling. But there's a point where it becomes disabling. It's disabling when someone doesn't come to the office because they just want to be at home, and they don't want the hassle, and they want to. They're not helping themselves. They're not helping the company. And so I think that that's where it's gone too far. And what we said to our people is, look, we don't want to have a hybrid, but we'll be flexible.
Right.
Let's leverage technology. Yeah. If you need to take your kids somewhere, stay home, take your kids, and do a meeting on Zoom if you got to do it. If a maintenance guy says, I'm coming between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., okay, spend that day at home and take your meetings. Let technology enable this, but don't let it disable. But it's not just about the company. I believe socially that our country, there's a book that was written, maybe some of you read it, called Bowling Alone. It was written in 2020. I'm sorry, in 2002, 20 years ago. The topic of the book was really based on this observation that these academics had, that was that our country, that our bonds of social trust were fraying because we weren't together as much anymore. This was 20 years ago. And they were pointing out the communities that had high bonds of social trust. And when I say social trust, I mean, I don't just trust my neighbor. I trust a stranger. So if I'm on the side of the road and I need my tire changed, that if somebody pulls up, I'm not thinking that person is there to rob me. I'm thinking that that person is there to help me. Sure. Yep. And communities that have higher degrees of social trust perform better on every metric: health, growth, everything. Because they just, and you could think of just if you think about COVID and vaccines and lack of trust, probably a lot of people got sick and died because there was this lack of trust. So that, and the reason the book's called Bowling Alone is because they said, well, people aren't going to Rotary as much, they're not going to houses of worship as much, they're not going to bowling leagues anymore. Yeah. And so people are bowling alone.
That's a weird one to call out.
Yeah, exactly. But they were saying people aren't together as much.
Yeah.
We need to be together. And so what's our game plan now? Yeah. Fast forward 20 years where they make this observation. Now here's a good one. We're going to sit at home, we're going to work at home, we're going to tweet anonymously from our sofa, we're going to we're going to be entertained alone.
And we're only going to listen to the things that we agree with.
Exactly.
That sounds about right.
And what do we get now? You know, so I'm not going to see anybody. I mean, is there any wonder that our country becomes more and more divided every day? We're isolated. We're going nuts. Yeah. I mean, you try getting an appointment with a therapist these days. You can't. You just.
I think we all are right now. I like this. This is good. I needed it. No, it's not a soapbox. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think shared experience is everything, right? And the fewer we have of them, the more in trouble we probably are. Right, and so your business creates ways to get together, right? During our prep call, you said every house has a kitchen, but people still go out to eat.
Yep, that was my grandfather's line.
There you go. You got to credit the right generation on that. And so, how do we reintroduce going out to eat or going out to the theater, or having an experience together? How do we innovate to get folks off the couch and away from the little screens and get them in front of the big screens and together in a setting?
Well, there's not a lot of innovation that we have. We had a big period of innovation right before the pandemic with this move to the recliners everywhere and the food and beverage that we never had, and I would say that we're not making Steak Diane and Chateaubriand at a movie theater, but we have great pizza. We were very deliberate about saying, well, if we're going to have pizza and we're going to have burgers, let's have great pizza, let's have great burgers, let's have great food in our theaters. And I think in the country, we're probably among the best. And I would say the Palace is one of our best theaters in the country, in terms of just what a modern theater should be, that get people off the couch. Because a movie theater competes in two areas. It competes, really, we are out-of-home entertainment. The thing I always took solace in, again, when I was the Schadenfreude poster boy, I took solace in that people wanted to be together, and that also streaming is TV. And going to the movies is an active, different experience. If you watch The Terminator on your TV, whether you stream it or watch it on network TV
Classic.
or DVD, it's the same darn thing. But when you go to a movie theater, you can complain and say, oh, that's not the biggest screen you have. Yeah, you could, but it's 30 feet, 40 feet bigger than your 100-inch TV, a lot.
Right.
And the sound's a lot better, and you're not distracted by your phone. I mean, I've fallen asleep on my sofa with my tablet hitting me in the head. Some others may have had this similar problem. It's not the same. Thank goodness. So. But we do compete against the couch too.
Yeah.
That's one of our bigger competitors because on the margins, which is where we make our money,
Yep.
it's big fixed cost business.
Yep.
Got to plow the parking lots in the winter. You gotta turn on the lights. You got to pay the mortgage. So those last customers are where you're most profitable. So we do compete against the couch, and so to get people to come off, we have to have the product. Now, so we have to have the environment, which I think we have. The thing that's the most telling statistic and the challenge we've had, people want to go to the movies.
Yep.
Last year, our business was still down 35%.
Okay.
We had 65% of our revenues in the theater business.
So the hotel's back, but the theaters are lagging.
But the same statistic was that also the number of wide releases was down 35%.
So it's tracking with the content.
Yeah.
So it's the Netflix, it's the Hulus, it's all the streaming services that are grabbing the content that used to come to you guys directly.
Well, it's not that. So you have to remember, the history of entertainment was based on this concept called sequential release, or also referred to as windows. So if you think about what it used to happen in your life, you wanted to see a movie, you'd see it in the theater. Yeah. And then you'd go and you might buy it on DVD, and then you might rent it, and then you might watch it on HBO, and then you might watch it on broadcast TV. Mm-hmm.
But there was always windows, and it was delayed, and there was...
Each one had a thing. And we used to... There was a way of describing that was a little tongue-in-cheek, right? Windows was selling the same thing to the same person over and over again. Yeah, I was like, okay, that sounds a little underhanded, I guess. But what I figured out recently, I was used to say that, but then when I was actually Terminator, I was sitting there and I'm watching Terminator for the 10th time.
It was way ahead of its time.
Yes.
It holds up.
Yeah, it does hold up. It really is really a great movie, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm watching the commercials, and I realize something. It's being sold to me again. I'm paying with my time because I'm watching the commercials, and I realized, why can we sell the same thing to the same person over and over again? Because they want to buy it.
Yeah.
And so,
it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. People want to buy it. They want to experience it again. And so the economics of the business were based on these multiple sales. Mm-hmm. Now Netflix rolls in. And Netflix says, stupid, that's a dumb idea. Forget sequential release. Let's just give it to them when they want it, release it on streaming, and we'll be able to pay for it. We'll make all the economics work with one window. Streaming.
So when they drop it.
That drop. I mean, and by the way, you want to talk about a dynamic that's totally messed up with streaming? This idea of dropping something, this idea of all this fragmentation. Yeah. And let's even think, there's a bunch of things. Imagine this. Okay. I am sure there are people in this room right now saying, let's not talk about Succession. The show. We cannot talk. I haven't seen it yet. Do you know what happened? Don't worry, I'm not going to say it. But it's like, no, don't. In fact, my wife and I just had this discussion a couple of days ago. I said, did you see Succession, honey? She's like, don't tell me. Okay, how many people in business here have a product where they want their customers to say to each other, let's not talk about that product? It's insane. And on top of that, we've lost... Talk about separation and the inability to be together. One of the things we've lost on television, there's no Seinfelds being created. There's no Friends. There's no Office, because nobody sits around on Thursday night where all these people, the only thing that's happening with now is sports, where there's this cultural get-together where we all talk about the same thing on Friday. Yeah. And so again,
Must-see TV. Isn't they what
the
they used to call it?
TV. We're losing these things that keep us together. At least going to the movies, we got 20 million people off their rear ends this weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
And they all did the same thing. And so this idea of we're just going to have this one release, it's bad socially,
Yeah.
it doesn't work economically. But the problem was this. It became one of these stocks that just traded like, I mean, if anybody is a financial advisor here, would someone come please explain the metrics of Netflix's stock price to its actual economic performance? Free cash flow, not profit, because they report a profit. It's the complete opposite of we're in the real estate business.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite of the real estate business. Real estate people want high depreciation so they lower their taxes. Netflix wants low depreciation because they depreciate their product, the product being the shows, over a period of time.
Yeah.
So they want low depreciation so they can report a profit. But if you look at their free cash flow, it's getting better, but it's still like 200 times their enterprise. Their enterprise value is 200 times their free cash. It's insane. But Wall Street gets involved, and Wall Street sends a letter to the new CEO of Disney when the pandemic hits.
Right.
Bob Chapek, one of the hedge fund guys, sends a letter to him. Here's your game plan.
Yeah.
By the way, I just bought a bunch of your stock. Good news.
Yeah.
You're the new CEO. I bought a bunch of your stock. I'm an activist, so I'm going to be a pain in your rear end. And you know what? Put all your chips in on streaming. Forget about anything else. Forget about that sequential release nonsense. He literally wrote, the theaters, who cares? I mean, I'm sure people felt, he said, I'm sure people felt bad when the horse and buggy went away.
Yeah.
You want to talk
The now
about me?
former CEO of Disney, right?
Yeah, now former. But I was like, oh my God. But that was the tenor. We're all going to,
Yeah.
because if we can get $1,200 a subscriber for our stock price, because that's how they looked at it, forget the economics, then why would we need anything else?
So
Well,
we need a return to experiential, either travel or a date night or all the things, right? Like,
well, and the economics dictate. Warner Brothers, when they got bought out of AT&T, David Zaslav, the CEO, said, you guys, this doesn't make sense. These streaming economics don't make sense. Because again, we got to give them the experience. I'll wrap this up quickly. He said, no, this is nuts. We need to go back to sequential release. We need to maximize the revenue of our IP. This is not about what do we need to do to innovate, to answer your question.
Yep.
This is about what does Hollywood need to do to recognize that their best economics are sequential release and starting with the movie theaters as a way of driving that cultural zeitgeist.
Right. And as far as experiences go, your people, your employees are such a big part of that, whether it be in the hotel business, the restaurant business, the theater business, and that sector of our workforce just got hammered during the last few years. And so I'm wondering, you mentioned when we were talking a couple weeks ago that the people are your biggest and your most important part of your business. How have your people fared? How are those employees coming back? Are you struggling to get workforce to sort of return?
Yes.
Never ask a question that can give a one-word answer. Never.
Have you noticed I don't really even have a one-word answer to anything?
Terrible question.
Yes, people, we say, and we try to walk the walk and we talk the talk. People are our most important asset. And, and it was a lesson that you'd think I would remember with this, that I should know this. It's a generational, it's a tenet of the company. My grandfather started with it. When we opened the St. Kate, I expected to start, and we've got great reviews, and I expected to open those reviews and read, this is such a cool hotel, and the art's beautiful and so thoughtful, and that, I was expecting to read that kind of thing. You know what I read? That hotel's great. The people took great care of me. The people really made me feel good. That's what 90% of the reviews are. And I realized that I went, oh, I'm such an idiot. Of course that's what it says. I should know better. No matter how beautiful the structure, it comes down to the people. And so we try to remember that they are our most important asset. And if you don't think the dishwasher is important, wait till he doesn't show up. That idea. But yes, as good as much as we do that and preach that, it was, and we tried to, through the pandemic, and this helped us. I started with, yes, it's hard. It is hard. In a low unemployment environment, it's a real challenge to get people. But I would say that we've fared better than most. Look, our margins are being impacted by it. There's no doubt about that. Because the price of labor has gone up, we have to respond to the market. But I think that we were better than most because One of the decisions that we made during the pandemic was that, and this is a horrible, horrible calculus, was we said, you know what? If we can open up our facilities and just lose less money or lose the same amount of money being closed, then let's open them.
Keep people coming to work.
Keep people employed. Keep some feel like there's some momentum, something going on, and even if there's nobody there, and we're losing money by the boatloads at that point. But if we could do that, that's probably a good thing. I have to be honest. I wasn't thinking about once again, not that smart. Wasn't thinking like, oh, in a couple years when this is all starts to resolve, we're going to be in a better place because people will have had jobs. We kept teams together, and we'll at least have a little bit of a leg up. And as it turned out,
That's exactly what
you
happened.
do the right thing and good things happen, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what does, and we'll get to, we've heard a little bit about the business. We want to hear a little bit more about the guy who runs the business. So I've got some personal questions for you, but what do your businesses look like? We talked about the past, we talked about crazy COVID, and now we're coming out of it. What do your businesses look like in 10 years? What do those, if you just took them in restaurant, hotel, theaters, what do they look like? How do they feel different than they do today?
I'll give you the same answer that I always gave when people would get up and they'd say, Greg, what's your vision? What's the company going to look like in 10 years? And I'd say, I don't know.
No earthly idea.
I have no clue, because that's not how I look at the business. I look at it like this, and it's sort of, if you look at the history of our company, I've had history to be my teacher, right? Why we still have the campus theater and past his prologue. Our philosophy has been, if you maintain your balance sheet and you're looking for new things to do, and you're trying to grow your business, because you got to grow or die, as they say, you will do that. You will take advantage of the opportunities as they present themselves. As the theater business 10 years ago started to change with the recliner movement and the food and beverage stuff, we just started doing that. Yeah. Now, we've said philosophically we wanted to start to invest more in lodging. And that was because the theater business, that we went through that investment cycle, and we were going to start to grow the hotel business more, and then pandemic hit. So that got sideways, and we didn't have the cash flow to do what I wanted to do at that point. But we're starting to get cash flow back. We've paid down. We never. One of the things that was very important to us was we always try to have low leverage. We, under the philosophy of, look, we're in these businesses, you never know who's going to show up on any given day.
True.
And now, we didn't ever anticipate anything like this happening. I mean, as bad as the TV and the Depression were for my grandfather, I think that my dad and I have talked about this. I don't think he could have even, none of us.
Sure.
Oh, we're going to be closed for 6 months, and there's going to be a few years, there's going to be no movies. Nobody plans for that. So you could plan for things to get to slow down or to change on the margins, but not like, that wholesale disaster. So we kept we paid down debt. We actually reinstituted our dividend about 9 months ago. We've had to start. Our hotels have an investment cycle that they need, so we're getting on that. So we're doing that, and then we'll continue to grow. I would tell you, look, at the part we haven't talked about is when we sold, in the only constant being change, we sold the limited service lodging. My dad had come in, did the Pfister, and liked full service, but then he grew into, again, what became the biggest part of our business, Budgetel, turned into Baymont. It was, and then we sold that about 18 years ago.
Okay.
We took that money and we dividended it. We took it out of the company, which my family got a chunk of it, and we reinvested that. And so we own the Verlo brand. So if you need a mattress, we own the Verlo brand. We own a bunch of restaurants in Milwaukee. So if you're in Milwaukee, and independent restaurants, you're in the Third Ward, you can go to Smoke Shack or Bridgewater, Onesto, all these restaurants. And then we also started up a real estate investment business, and separate and buying things that we tend to be a little contrarian. In the last 5 years, we've been buying shopping centers. Of course, who doesn't buy retail shopping centers? Yeah. We actually bought a senior housing facility in the middle of the pandemic. Even I had to take a gut check on that one. Like, what? Okay, but it's worked out.
Yeah, diversifying, and I guess if you own hotels, owning a mattress company probably is not the worst thing you could do.
It's not. They're great mattresses, and we have them in the hotels, and that's exactly right. But I'll tell you, it's very counter-pandemic, because people were at home. That was the only thing we had. In the middle of the pandemic, only two things were working: mattresses and the 2 golf courses in Lake Geneva, and that was it.
There you go. Well, no, I think, you know, obviously you guys are doing something right. You're still here after, what was it, 87 years, and probably going to be here for 87 more. Let's hope that. So we got a little intel into the business. We got a little feel for what you may be looking into going forward. Let's talk about you, the person, right? We've talked about you, the CEO. So what's the first movie you remember watching?
First movie, well, the one that goes, I would say that memory goes back the farthest, which is a movie that no one's probably heard of, was a movie called The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
Anybody? Can we?
Has anyone ever heard of that movie?
Show of hands?
Wow.
Really?
Okay.
All right, this is the first
Don
time
Knotts
ever.
was the star of
Yeah.
The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. And the reason I remember it was, and it's funny, I don't ever actually do this now, and it never happened with my kids. I guess times were different then. But when I was growing up, when I was young, my birthday would come around. I guess this was a cheap birthday party for my parents. We had a little screening room, not in our house, but sort of in Milwaukee. And so we'd go to the screening room for my birthday. And I think for multiple years we played the same. They kept playing The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. They'd bring a big bag of popcorn. And, you know, when I say a big bag of popcorn, I mean a garbage bag full of popcorn and some things for the kids. We dip in and watch The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Awesome. I have heard the title. I can't think of what the movie was about, but it sounds like we've got a few people here that could probably help us out with that. Speaking of popcorn, you're a self-admitted popcorn addict, did I hear? I heard that somewhere in another interview.
I do like popcorn.
I have to tell you the guilty pleasure I had. I used to go, like at lunchtime, I'd go to the movie theater, I'd walk in, and of course they think I want to buy a ticket, and I'm like, no, I just want some popcorn and like a Slurpee, like a slushy sort of thing.
You're like our favorite customer, by the way.
Right? Because you know
That's where all the money is.
Yeah, that's where the money is, in the concessions. And the first time I did it, he's a young man. He's probably 17 years old or something like that. He's kind of looking at me, you know, like when dog doesn't understand. You know, they're like, oh. He's kind of like, so you don't want to see a movie, but you're here for. I said, yeah. I said, you make your money in concessions, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, I just really want the popcorn because I'm addicted to movie theater popcorn. And he's like, I'm gonna go get my manager. He like disappears behind a wall, right? He comes back, he's like, okay, come on in. And then he followed me over the concessions and got my thing, and off I went. There's something about movie theater popcorn.
Yeah, you want a pro tip too on the popcorn?
Oh, right on.
Put M&Ms on your popcorn.
Oh, okay.
Which
Yeah.
some people get it, some people don't. I'm going to be honest. The first time I heard this, I was in law school, man. That was in mid-'88, probably.
Okay.
And so how long? In a long time. I
was told there'd be no
I know
math.
who told. I remember the woman who told me, said you should put M&Ms in your popcorn. That's disgusting. I mean, that was really even pre a lot of this, because here's chalk-covered potato chips, chalk-covered pretzels.
Right.
There wasn't really a lot of that. But she said, think about sweet and salt. And I'm like, okay. And I did it. I'm like, okay, I totally get this. It makes all the sense in the world, because think about it. It's chocolate. It's like a chocolate-covered potato chip or something, but the chocolate doesn't melt, because it's candy coated.
Yeah, so you're not dealing with the.
But the ones that get to the bottom are soft. And
Oh, I'm in.
it's really good.
I am all in on that. I think I see nods happening out there. All right, pro tip, got it. So, favorite movie genre, if you've got one. A lot of these are based on the movies because you're the movie guy.
Yeah, I like going. I would say, look, I like a good comedy. I like to go and just have a good laugh. I like good dramas. Those are. If I had to say those, and when people say, because if we're gonna get to what's your favorite movie, you'll find that I can't pick one, and I pick.
I'm
one.
going to say The Terminator. Yeah.
That's
not exactly
my
a
favorite,
comedy.
but I like it, and I like action movies. I like movies that are like a roller coaster,
Right.
Where it's like, that's that just where you're constantly going, a Born Identity, a Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about experience, and there's something about sharing it, right? And so, to me, when you're sitting in a theater and it's a comedy, and other people are laughing and you're laughing, there's something about that. It's like going to see stand-up, right?
Yes.
Like there's something different seeing a comedy with other people than there is at home.
That's exactly right. Whether you're laughing with a group of people, crying with a group
Or
of people,
scared,
or scared with a group of people,
jumping out of your seat.
or if you're the only one laughing and saying, "God, why am I the only one laughing in a full theater? What's wrong with me?" Which just happened to me.
That means you're the only one that gets it.
Exactly.
Favorite director or actor?
Favorite, I can't know if I could pick a favorite actor. I would say probably favorite directors, I'd pick Hitchcock and Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies of all time is Memento. And for those that have seen, it's he's the guy who did the Batman and Inception and did so many great movies. But Memento's really an interesting movie.
Okay. Yeah, different ends of the spectrum and.
Yeah, well, the thing about Memento, and I'll tell you this is, and again, I don't really watch a lot of movies at home, not because I'm against them. I just like to go to the movies, or I'm watching sports or news or something when I'm at home or working. But Memento, so I went to see Memento, and for those of you who've seen it, it's a Christopher Nolan thing where he's always messing with time. And so the whole theme of that one, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking that we're watching it backward. Every sequence is being... The sequence moves forward. It's not talking backwards, but it's moving backward in time. It starts at the beginning. It starts at the end of the movie, moves to the beginning. That's what I thought. And I'd only seen it once. I thought, when the DVD comes out, I'm going to buy that DVD and I'm going to play it in order because I want to see this. I want to see it in time order. What I quickly figured out was it actually starts at the beginning and the end and meets in the middle. It really, it was mind-blowing. It was really interesting.
I've got my two favorite directors, probably Stanley Kubrick.
Sure.
And Spike Lee.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Different.
It's hard to pick favorites.
It is.
It is.
But when you're I'm a junkie, so like I said, I was geeking out for this conversation, so I've got all these questions. So, musicals, yes or no?
Yes.
No.
No. No.
I don't.
I mean, but Grease didn't do it for you.
This funny thing is, you say Grease, and I don't. Of course, it's a musical.
Yes, it is.
But I don't think of it as a musical, right? Like an old school musical, I guess. And so I
Did you not like West Side Story recently?
No.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, I'm a musical fan. I've come over.
Not everything.
I've come over. So, favorite movie soundtrack?
Favorite movie soundtrack? I thought we just talked about musicals. I don't know.
You guys get your questions ready too, by the way.
That's a tough one. Favorite movie soundtrack?
The Big Chill.
I love The Big Chill. I loved Woody Allen, Manhattan.
Okay.
That's just that Gershwin, The Sound of New York.
Yeah.
I love. Off the top of my head, I had to dig deep for that one.
Yeah, I told you I was going to throw you some curves. Here's one for you, soundtrack. Car Wash, the movie Car Wash.
Oh yeah, sure.
That soundtrack. Yeah, that's an awesome soundtrack. Again, showing my age. Been around for a minute. Scariest movie you've ever seen?
Scariest I've ever seen. One that wouldn't be a horror movie, and I think I described it as a horror movie. It was recent. Maybe it'll come to me. Recent movie that I really enjoyed that I thought with it. And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest horror guy, but I did like Megan. But I did the original, The Quiet Place, and I saw Quiet Place too, which I thought was great. But the original Quiet Place, I thought was intense and really, well done in terms of, that you're sitting in this theater and all you can hear are people munching on popcorn, which is like music to my ears. But but an interesting concept.
That's money.
Exactly.
That's happening.
But by the way, for people who say, well, you charge so much for the popcorn, it goes back to this whole idea of it's really about an experience. It's a pricing theory question. We could raise the price of the tickets. Yes, our margins are higher on the popcorn. We can get to the same place eventually by changing how we price things. But nobody's coming and gonna, except for you and me, occasionally picking up some popcorn.
We're the only ones.
Most people don't do it. It's a package thing.
No, what does Orville Redenbacher know about popcorn?
Yeah, exactly. Must know something.
No offense if you're Orville's family here today. Last question from me, and then cards. I expect the cards to come flying up if we even have time. Let me check real quick. Oh, we don't. All right, last one. You talked about comedies. Funniest movie you've ever seen, or funniest comedic actor that you may like in a series of movies?
Well, I have two. When people ask me the inevitable question, "What's your favorites?" I usually say I can't pick favorites. I've seen too many, and I love too many. But I had two comedy favorites that I love, which were Animal House and Blazing Saddles. Which and I guess we were discussing this. I quote Caddyshack regularly. I mean,
Who doesn't? Of a certain age.
who didn't see that story of the Dalai Lama and think, "Hey, Lama, how about this?" I'm like, really? Okay, this is really weird. But the, it's so those are my favorites. I will say, but there haven't been enough comedies lately. And it's out. It won't be out much longer. But if you get a chance, go see Champions. Champions was really, really. It was funny. It was silly.
I'm not familiar with Champions.
That's the problem. I understand the problem actually with it. My film booker, I saw it and I was like, how could this not? So it's Woody Harrelson's new movie he just had out.
Oh, that's right. He's helping those special needs kids.
The special needs kids. It's a story about he basically he gets pulled over for drunk driving and gets assigned. He's a basketball coach to coach this team of special needs kids. So you're watching the movie at first and you're thinking, should I laugh at this? Is this funny? Because it is pretty funny. And then you're realizing, oh yeah, well these actors are not acting like they're special needs. They're clearly special needs people, and they're in on it.
Right.
And
they're getting paid.
And they're getting paid. And then you read the story. I went and looked afterwards, and they all enjoy. It was something they do. And then what I even found out is Peter Farrelly, the guy that made something about Mary. I think he has special needs people in his family. And they say he puts special needs people in all of his movies. And if you think about something about Mary, the brother was a special needs kid. And so it was like it was hysterical. It was so good. But because there's that feeling of discomfort, should I laugh at this?
And will I be judged?
Yeah. And was that the right thing? But I'm guessing the special needs community, for the most part, would say. And the critics were divided. It was really interesting. Rotten Tomatoes, it was like 50s or something, but the users were in the 90s.
Yeah,
and the critics were like, you can't do this, you can't make fun, you can't have fun at someone else's expense, but they were all doing it.
Right.
Right. So
it's actually at your own expense because you paid to go see that movie.
Yeah, no, but they all were doing interviews and how much they loved being a part of it and doing it, and it was done. It was respectful. It wasn't disrespectful humor. It was.
What else should we see? Give us a parting shot. What should we be going to the theater for coming up?
You got Mission Impossible coming, which one I'm looking forward to. You got Fast and Furious sequel coming. You got Oppenheimer. That's going to be a Nolan movie coming this summer. It's supposed to be intense. I mean, there's all sorts of things, big and small. Just be on the lookout for stuff, and check the website. And because again, the small stuff, like the last Megan was a little small. I enjoyed that. There was a movie called Missing that was really interestingly done. It was one that was just out. You can't see. You'll have to catch it on one of your streaming services.
Yeah, one of the evil streaming services.
But they shot that movie. It was all like on a computer screen. So So the person was looking at their Ring doorbell on the screen. So you were seeing action of what was going on outside the door, but it was on their screen. Or they were having a FaceTime call with somebody who was doing something, but it was all through the perspective of that screen, which I thought was a very interesting way to shoot something. And was it great? It wasn't the greatest movie I ever saw. You know what? This is the other problem. Streaming's created a huge problem that we're maybe going to get away from a little bit. But movies have gotten too long. Now, what will happen is Hollywood will say, exhibitors, you don't, we're exhibitors, that's what movie theater business is. Exhibitors, you want movies to be short because you're going to show multiple runs.
Just turn the theater over.
Yeah, which there's some truth to that. But the other side of this is, it's like, guys, have you forgotten the phrase, leave them wanting? I mean, I'm really tired of people walking out of a 2-hour and 20-minute movie saying, it was good, but I could really have used 20 minutes less of it. How many have had that experience, right? Yeah. Movies that are 90 minutes to 2 hours can be great. Now, did I think Avatar at 3 hours plus was great? I did, actually, and I thought it was worth the time I spent seeing it. That's a maxim, never bet against James Cameron.
Yeah, right?
But not every movie has to be that. But what's happened with streaming is every director, I'm pretty sure, they don't have a scene they didn't love. And, the streamers are saying, hey, make it as long as you want. We don't care.
Yeah.
And so to get them released theatrically, the director's saying, hey, look at it. If you want to release this, you got to do it as long as I want it. But the truth is, you can pretty much, brevity is in art, and you can pretty much edit 20 minutes out of almost any movie.
Power to the editors.
Yes.
Well, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for coming out, and let's do this again.
Okay, anytime.